for literally like something I did not do. Like and it goes back to like people just like attacking Jake Paul and like wanting to see me fail.
It hurts so bad. I'm in the hospital right now. I can't even close my mouth. I keep crying, bro.
So check this out. The World Boxing Association just completely erased Jake Paul from their rankings and basically slammed the door shut on him. This was the exact moment when everything he'd been selling people for years finally crumbled apart. We're looking at a total meltdown of everything he'd spent so long building up. Within 2 weeks, this guy who convinced millions he was on track to become a real champion had to watch his entire world collapse while everyone was watching. This was when his reality shattered completely. The instant his dreams disappeared into nothing, and trust me, nothing was gonna be the same for him after this.
6, 7, 8, 9.
December 19th, 2025 wasn't your typical fight night, not by a long shot. Miami's Kaseya Center was jam-packed with every camera angle covered. A-listers taking up the expensive seats, energy buzzing through the whole building, and people all over the planet tuned in online. Everyone wondering if Jake Paul's boxing career was legit, or just another elaborate show. Jake stepped through those ropes, carrying himself like someone who genuinely believed he'd evolved way beyond just being a YouTuber with boxing gloves. Standing across from him was Anthony Joshua, steady as a rock, ice cold, completely unfazed by all the circus atmosphere around this whole event. You could see that difference right away. Something felt wrong from the opening rounds if you knew what to look for. Jake wasn't running the show like usual, wasn't controlling the tempo or making things happen on his terms, and that signature cockiness started draining away with every passing moment. Joshua stayed patient as hell, hunting him around that ring like a lion who had all the time in the world to finish what he started. Even with all that crowd energy, you could sense the whole vibe shifting towards something dangerous.
At the moment, not that much is going to happen. And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
When we hit the middle rounds, the numbers were already telling a brutal story about what was really going down. Joshua had connected on 48 shots out of 54 throws, hitting at roughly 33%. Jake, meanwhile, only landed 16 punches from 56 attempts, sitting at about 29%. In boxing terms, that gap is absolutely enormous. It's the difference between complete control and just trying not to get knocked out. One fighter was hunting for the finish while the other was just hoping to hear that final bell.
Thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal.
Jake spent most of that fight moving backward, shell up, burning energy like crazy, just trying to protect himself. He was getting outworked, outpositioned, and completely out of his comfort zone. At some point, he gave up trying to win and started trying to just survive each round. Then round 6 arrived, and everything went sideways fast. The first time he hit the deck, you could see the shock hit him. The second knockdown brought real panic into his face. The third time down was game over. Joshua landed a perfect right hand that sent Jake crashing down hard. The referee jumped in immediately and called it off. The arena went from deafening to dead silent in seconds. Everyone there and watching at home realized they'd just seen something that couldn't be undone. This wasn't just the end of a fight, it was the end of an entire version of who Jake Paul thought he was.
Boxing is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect.
The cameras caught him smiling right after, which threw people off. Viewers thought it showed heart, respect, maybe some warrior mentality coming through, but that smile was hiding something way worse than anyone knew at the time. Jake's jaw had broken in 2 spots during the fight, and that grin was literally just covering up serious internal damage. Once they got him backstage, reality hit like a freight train. Medical staff confirmed the fractures and rushed him straight into emergency surgery. They had to install titanium plates just to hold his jaw in place. He couldn't eat solid food for weeks, could barely talk without serious pain, and sleep became nearly impossible during recovery. This wasn't about boxing strategy or training camps anymore. This was about basic healing and hoping his body could function normally again.
Look, that guy did great for someone who's been boxing for like less than a decade. He has had no real
That devastating loss to Joshua put him in exclusive company, making him only the second fighter besides Tommy Fury to beat Jake Paul professionally. This marked his first knockout defeat ever and his second loss total. His pro record now read 12 wins, 2 losses with 7 knockouts. To outsiders, that might seem decent for someone who started on YouTube, but the psychological damage went way deeper than any stat sheet could show. His self-belief took a massive beating, all his momentum vanished completely, and his whole boxing future suddenly looked questionable. Everything that makes a fighter who they are got seriously damaged that night.
It's showing his lower jaw, that's his mandible, and yes, it looks like it's broken in 2 places, and it's circled in these red circles. You can see this is his jaw. This is supposed to be sort of 2 continuous lines.
But here's where things got even more devastating. The real nightmare showed up just 12 days later to make everything worse. December 31st, 2025, the World Boxing Association dropped their monthly rankings update. Right there in plain sight, Jake Paul got completely wiped from the cruiserweight rankings. The same guy who'd cracked those rankings at number 14 back in July after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was now totally gone from the list. That ranking spot had been everything to Jake and his whole team. It was his solid proof that he actually belonged in professional boxing. It was his direct route toward legitimate title opportunities. Losing that ranking wasn't just a minor setback or small step backward. It was getting completely deleted from the conversation. In boxing's ruthless world, being unranked means you have 0 negotiating power, no clear path forward, and absolutely no credibility with the people who matter.
Best shot at the moment. Not that much is going to happen. And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
All this destruction happened in just 16 days, which is barely over 2 weeks. December 19th, destroyed his body and landed him in surgery. December 31st, wiped out his official standing and removed him from consideration. The sport that had once embraced him happily, loving the attention and revenue he generated, suddenly turned ice cold and unwelcoming. January was about to make things even more brutal somehow.
It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring.
January 4th, 2026, the Florida Athletic Commission hit Jake Paul with an indefinite medical suspension, which is basically the scariest thing you can hear in combat sports. The jaw damage was deemed too serious and risky, and medical professionals flat out refused to give any timeline for when he might compete again. Indefinite means exactly what it sounds like. Your future isn't yours to control anymore. It means your whole career now depends on bones mending, metal holding up, and dots eventually saying yes. Man, he got absolutely destroyed by that right-hand bomb. When you total everything up, the math is completely devastating. In barely 14 days, Jake Paul transformed from ranked contender with serious momentum to medically suspended, completely unranked fighter whose future was totally unclear. His face was literally being supported by titanium hardware. His dreams were barely alive, and his obvious path to championship gold had completely evaporated. Boxing didn't celebrate him, didn't shield him, didn't grant him any special favors. The sport just moved forward to the next bout, the next storyline, and honestly, that's probably the most painful part of all.
And look, AJ, he knew what was going to happen before the fight even took place. That's why he was so calm. And that's probably why in the first few rounds when Jake Paul's buzzing around like a fucking little bee, this is going to slow down.
When January 4th, 2026 finally came around, the sport had seen enough and decided to act. The Florida Athletic Commission stepped in like the tough teacher who enters the room after students have already wrecked everything and created total mayhem. Medical professionals didn't soften anything or try to make it sound better. They verified that Jake's jaw fractures were seriously severe and medically risky. Just like that, without any ceremony or big announcement, Jake Paul received the most terrifying verdict that exists in boxing: an indefinite medical suspension. Indefinite isn't a soft or friendly term in this unforgiving sport. It definitely doesn't mean take a couple weeks off, heal up, and return stronger. It means your career now belongs to scan results, MRI findings, doctor assessments, and medical approvals that might never happen.
Shot at the moment. Not that much is going to happen. And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
He is stunned. He's not knocked out immediately, but if you look at the displacement of his jaw and the force that was in that punch, that is impressive. Doesn't look very staged to me.
So while fans kept arguing endlessly online about the fight, debating what went down and what it meant, Jake was looking at blank hospital walls and complicated medical documents. His jaw was still held together with titanium parts, and the future he believed he controlled was suddenly on indefinite hold. Boxing as a business doesn't do consolation prizes or heartwarming comebacks. It doesn't pause for anyone to recover emotionally or physically. When that suspension became official, the message was clear, direct, and absolutely crushing. Your body controls your career now, not your drive or your internet fame. Then reality landed another devastating blow to his already damaged confidence. Jake's official pro boxing record now showed 12 wins, 2 losses, with 7 knockouts total, which might look acceptable on paper until you remember what just occurred and how it went down. That recent defeat was his first knockout loss, and nothing changes a fighter's identity quicker than getting dropped on the biggest stage in front of millions.
Never been better.
Yeah, he's absolutely crazy.
July 2025, Jake carried himself like boxing's future was his personal property. By January 2026, he was discovering how quickly dreams can die. The championship route he truly believed was waiting for him had crumbled like a burning bridge. Emotional damage hits harder than any punch because it forces fighters to ask themselves a terrifying question. What if this is really the end? What if the story stops here? From the sport's view, this was the system fixing itself after allowing things to spiral. The WBA's decision sent a clear, undeniable message to the entire celebrity boxing scene that this sport has real boundaries, and those boundaries are written in blood and bone, not likes and shares. Going from media favorite to medical emergency is genuinely one of the most humbling experiences in combat sports. 1 month you're everywhere, posing for photos, selling dreams and pay-per-views to millions. The next month you're unranked, suspended, and waiting for doctors to decide if your body can even handle competition anymore. Celebrity status didn't save Jake when everything mattered, and the sport didn't pause for him even slightly. Boxing had finally shut him out, and it clearly wasn't planning to welcome him back anytime soon. So what's actually remaining of Jake Paul now, after everything that went down? A guy with titanium hardware in his face and a future full of uncertainty and doubt, a career that imploded in just 16 days and left him staring at hospital ceilings instead of bright lights. The psychological impact of falling this far after soaring this high is something no training video or workout montage can prepare anyone for. The real fight now isn't in any boxing ring against another opponent, it's in his mind against his own uncertainty. Can he even return, knowing his body might fail him again? Should he even attempt it when the whole system has already rejected him? Social media bravado is loud and simple, but boxing truth is quiet, harsh, and completely merciless. And there's the isolation that comes with all of this. The cameras stop reaching out, the buzz dies down, the opportunities disappear, the world shifts to the next big thing while you sit alone with your thoughts and your damage. Dropping from stardom this fast does something lasting to a fighter's spirit. When you review the complete timeline, it almost seems impossible that it unfolded like this. December 19th, 2025, his career got destroyed under those bright arena lights. December 31st, 2025, the rankings deleted his prospects. January 4th, 2026, the suspension sealed the door. That's 16 days total from success to complete catastrophe. Boxing doesn't care about your identity, your history, or your social media numbers. This sport only recognizes survival and results, and even that recognition doesn't last long. The legend of Jake Paul as the unstoppable crossover champion finally died completely. What was left was a fractured jaw, a shattered dream, and a locked door. And no matter how hard you pound on it, beg with it, or try to break it down, boxing doesn't unlock opportunities for anyone based on what they used to be. Jake Paul's time is over.